It feels like everywhere you turn these days, there's just so much information. Trying to keep up with everything can be really overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, it can definitely be a challenge to sort of sift through it all and figure out what's really important.
So that's what we try to do with these deep dives. We pick one topic, like really zoom in and try to get past all the noise, you know?
Right. Dig into the research and try to understand the nuances of a specific issue. That's what we're aiming for.
Exactly. And today we're looking at something that's really pretty significant. It's the connection between children who witness violence between their parents at home
Right.
and how that affects them in terms of bullying, either being bullied or bullying others.
Absolutely. It's a really crucial area, and there's quite a bit of research that's been done on it.
Okay. So for this deep dive, we were focusing on a paper from 2012.
Yes.
It's by Dexter Arvoisen and Junsung Hong,
Mm-hmm.
and it's called A Meditational Model, Linking U.S., Witnessing Intimate Partner Violence and Bullying Behaviors and Victimization Among Youth.
That's the one.
Okay, so just to be clear, this isn't just like one study. It's kind of a bigger picture thing, right?
You got it. It's a review of a whole bunch of different research studies.
Okay.
So Voisin and Hong, they looked at studies that were published between 1999 and 2011.
Oh, wow. So it's covering like over a decade of research in this area.
Exactly. So what we're trying to do today is kind of synthesize all of that.
Yeah, understand what it all means.
Right. Pull out the key findings, give you the essential information about this connection.
Yeah. And how the authors think this link actually works. Like, what are the mechanisms involved?
Precisely. We want to understand not just that these things are connected, but why, like what's going on underneath the surface.
Okay. So to start off, what is the big takeaway?
Yeah.
The major finding from all this research?
Well, the research shows pretty definitively that young people who witness IPV, that's intimate partner violence,
Okay.
they're at a much higher risk for both bullying others and being bullied themselves. And this finding has been shown again and again in numerous studies. Like you said, we're talking about over a decade of research here.
Right.
Voisin and Hong cite a ton of studies in their paper, Baldrian in 2003, Bose and colleagues in 2009, and several others. It's a pretty consistent pattern.
So it sounds like what kids experience at home, like in their family environment, can really have a big impact on their social lives outside of the home.
Absolutely. It really underscores the serious and lasting consequences that domestic violence can have, especially on young people.
Definitely. So how did the authors go about explaining this link? They developed some kind of model, right?
Yeah, they call it a meditational model, which
Mm.
might sound kind of jargony,
Yeah, a little bit.
but it's actually a really helpful way to think about it.
Okay.
So imagine witnessing IPV as kind of like the starting point, right?
Yeah.
And then bullying or being bullied is the outcome, the end result.
Okay.
And this model is saying that there are these things in between, these mediating factors that sort of connect the two.
Okay, so there are like intermediate steps or pathways that help explain how we get from witnessing violence to bullying.
Exactly. Like, why does witnessing violence at home make a child more likely to bully someone at school? What's happening in between those 2 points?
Gotcha. So it's not just a simple direct cause and effect. There are other things at play.
Right. And the authors identify 3 main areas that seem to play a really important mediating role.
Okay, I'm curious. Lay it on me. What are they?
All right. Well, first, there's psychological problem behaviors.
Okay, so witnessing IPV can kind of mess with kids' mental health in a way that might lead to bullying.
Yeah, it can definitely have a negative impact. We're talking about things like depression, anxiety, even PTSD,
Wow.
post-traumatic stress disorder. And there's a lot of research that backs this up. They cite studies from Becker and McCloskey in 2002, Bogut and others in 2006, all the way to Vickerman's work in 2008. And this research consistently shows that witnessing IPV can lead to these kinds of mental health issues.
So it's not just about witnessing the violence in the moment. It can have these longer-term effects on how a child feels and functions.
Exactly. And then what's interesting is that these issues, these mental health challenges, they can contribute to both sides of the bullying dynamic.
So how does that work?
Well, think about it. If a child is struggling with a lot of anger or aggression, maybe because of what they've been exposed to at home,
Mm-hmm.
they might be more likely to lash out, to act aggressively towards other kids.
Right, that makes sense.
But on the other hand, if a child is dealing with depression or anxiety, they might seem more vulnerable to other kids.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
And that can make them a target for bullying.
It's like they're coming at it from two different angles.
Right. And there's this really striking statistic in the paper. It says that about 1/3 of youth who witness IPV actually meet the criteria for a PTSD diagnosis.
Wow, one-third. That's a huge number.
It is. It really highlights the extent of the trauma that these kids are dealing with. And a 2006 study by Moretti and colleagues found that this trauma, this PTSD diagnosis, it actually made the link between witnessing IPV and aggression even stronger.
Wow. So the trauma itself is kind of a driving force behind these behaviors.
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay, so we've got these psychological problem behaviors.
hmm
What's the second mediator?
The second one is lower school success.
Okay, so like kids not doing as well academically.
Exactly. The authors explain how witnessing IPV can negatively affect a child's grades, their concentration, their behavior at school. And again, there's research that shows this connection. Studies by Carell and Hoekstra in 2010, Wolf and others in 2003, all pointing to the same thing.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine a child being able to like sit down and do their homework if they're worried about what's going on at home.
Right. Or to focus in class when they're carrying all that stress and anxiety with them.
Makes total sense.
And then the authors connect us to bullying, saying that there's some research, for example, a study by Schwartz and colleagues in 2002, that found a link between doing poorly in school and being more likely to be involved in bullying, both as the bully and the victim.
Hmm.
But they also caution that this relationship is complex. They cite another study from 2004 by Woods and Wolk that shows it's not always a straightforward connection.
Okay, so it's not like if you have bad grades, you're automatically going to become a bully.
Right. It's more nuanced than that. It seems like academic difficulties can lead to social challenges, which might then play a part in bullying, but it's just one piece of the puzzle.
Gotcha. Okay, so we've got the psychological stuff, we've got the school performance stuff. What's the third mediator?
The third one is problematic peer interactions.
Okay, so this is about kids' relationships with their friends.
Yeah, essentially. You see, children who grow up in homes where there's violence, they often have trouble developing good social skills.
Oh, that makes sense.
Learning how to form positive relationships with other kids. The research really highlights this. There's work by McCloskey and Stewig in 2001, Fantuzzo and Moore in 1999, Rapetti and colleagues in 2002, Margolin and Gordis in 2000. They all found that children from violent homes tend to have a harder time with this aspect of their development.
Yeah, if you think about it, if a child's primary relationships, the ones at home, are full of conflict and tension, it makes sense that they might have trouble figuring out how to build healthy friendships.
Absolutely. And this can lead to a couple of different things. They might be more likely to engage in negative behaviors with their peers, like bullying.
Hmm.
Maybe because they haven't learned other ways to manage conflict or disagreement.
Right, they're kind of modeling what they've seen at home.
In a way, yeah. But at the same time, their difficulty forming strong social bonds can also make them more susceptible to being bullied.
Oh, right, because they might not have those strong friendships to kind of protect them.
Exactly. There's a bunch of research that supports this idea. Egan and Perry in 1998, Hodges and colleagues in 1999, McCloskey and Stewig again in 2001, Pope and Bierman in 1999, Schwartz and others in 1999, they all point to this connection between poor peer relationships and an increased likelihood of being victimized.
So it's almost like a vicious cycle.
Yeah, it can be.
Witnessing violence at home can lead to these problems with mental health, school performance, and forming friendships. And all of those things can then increase the risk of being involved in bullying in some way.
It's like a domino effect.
Totally.
And the authors even touch on some broader theories that support this idea, like social learning theory and social control theory.
Okay, I've heard of those. But can you remind me how they fit into this?
Sure. So social learning theory, the basic idea is that we learn behaviors by observing what goes on around us,
Okay.
Especially from the people who are important to us.
Right.
So this theory, as Akers talked about in 2009, it suggests that if a child sees violence being used to solve problems at home, they might start to think that violence is an okay way to deal with conflict in other areas of their life, like with their peers. And then social control theory, that's more about the bonds that people have with society,
Okay.
like their connections to family, school, other positive influences.
Right.
And this theory, as Hershey discussed in 2004, it suggests that when those bonds are strong, when people feel connected to those positive things, it makes them less likely to engage in negative behaviors.
Okay.
But when those bonds are weak, they're more likely to get involved in things like crime or delinquency, or in this case, bullying.
I see. So if witnessing IPV makes those bonds weaker, it might make a child more susceptible to those negative influences.
Exactly. Like they might not have those strong positive relationships to kind of buffer them from those negative impulses.
Right. It's either learning that violence is an acceptable way to deal with things or not having those protective relationships that would kind of steer them away from that.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay. So we've talked about these theories that kind of underpin the model. Did the authors give any specific examples from the studies they reviewed?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And some of them are really powerful.
Well, let's hear them. I'm all ears.
So, for instance, they highlight this Italian study from 2003 by Baldry,
Okay.
and it found a clear link between witnessing IPV and bullying. And this was especially true for girls.
Really?
Yeah, the study showed that girls who were exposed to violence from either their mom or their dad were more likely to bully others.
So even witnessing violence from the mother had an impact on girls' bullying behavior.
Right. It wasn't just about witnessing violence from the father.
Right.
They also mentioned a South African study from 2010 by Clover and colleagues. And this study found that witnessing IPV was a major risk factor for aggression and bullying, even when they took other factors into account.
Oh, interesting. Like what kind of other factors?
Like things like food insecurity,
Oh, wow.
which is obviously a really significant issue in that context. But even when they considered that, the link between witnessing IPV and bullying was still really strong.
Wow. So it's not just about the general environment being stressful.
Right. There's something specific about witnessing violence between parents that seems to contribute to these behaviors.
That's pretty powerful.
And there's more. There's a UK study from 2009 by Bose and others,
Okay.
and they followed these kids over a 2-year period.
Okay.
And what they found was that the kids who had witnessed IPV, they were more likely to be bullying others 2 years later.
So it wasn't just a short-term thing.
No, it seemed to have a lasting effect on their behavior.
Wow.
And then there's a really fascinating Canadian study from 2006 by Moretti and colleagues.
Right.
And this one was done in a correctional facility.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And they found that witnessing aggression from the mother was linked to aggression towards both friends and romantic partners for boys and girls.
Okay.
But witnessing aggression from the father was only linked to aggression towards friends and only for boys.
So there are some gender differences there.
It seems like it, yeah. And what's really interesting is that in this study, if a participant had been diagnosed with PTSD, the link between witnessing IPV and aggression was even stronger.
Okay, so it really does seem like those psychological effects, like that trauma, are a key part of this whole thing.
Absolutely. And beyond these specific examples, the authors also talk about how witnessing IPV can affect a child's sensitivity to aggression.
What do you mean by that?
Well, they say that some kids might become really sensitive to aggressive cues,
Yeah.
like they might be constantly on high alert, looking for threats even when there aren't any.
Right.
Almost like they're hyper aware of the potential for violence. And then other kids, they might actually become desensitized to aggression.
Okay, so it's like they're used to it, they don't react to it as strongly.
Exactly. And both of these things, both the hypersensitivity and the desensitization, can actually increase the risk of either bullying or being bullied.
Wow. I guess that makes sense if you think about it.
Yeah, it's like either overreacting to something that's not actually a threat or not recognizing a real threat when it's happening.
Right. So this model, it really does paint a really complex picture.
It does. It shows that there's a lot more going on than just that simple connection between witnessing violence and bullying.
Right. There are all these other factors that come into play.
Yeah, and the authors actually discuss some of those factors in their model as well.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
They call them moderating factors.
Okay, so these are things that might change the relationship between witnessing IPV and bullying.
Exactly. They might make that link stronger or weaker.
Okay, so what are some of the things that they found could moderate this relationship?
Well, one is age.
Okay, so younger kids might be more affected than older kids.
That seems to be the case. The research suggests that younger kids might have a harder time understanding the difference between witnessing violence and actually being directly harmed themselves.
Well, that makes sense.
Like for a little kid, if they see their parents fighting, it might feel like that violence is directed at them too.
Right.
Like they don't have the same cognitive ability to separate themselves from the situation.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then another moderator is gender.
Okay, so boys and girls might be affected differently.
Yeah, the research suggests that there are some differences.
Okay.
So when kids are younger, boys might be more likely to react by acting out,
Okay.
to show aggression or other externalizing behaviors.
Right.
While girls might be more likely to internalize their feelings, things like depression or anxiety.
So they might be experiencing the same level of distress, but expressing it in different ways.
That's right. But the research also shows that as kids get older, those differences might start to even out.
Oh, interesting.
And there's even some suggestion that testosterone might play a role in boys' aggression.
Okay.
So it's not just about social factors, but also maybe some biological factors as well.
Gotcha. So age and gender. Anything else?
Yeah, they also talk about race and ethnicity.
Okay, so are there differences based on race or ethnicity?
Well, that's where things get a little more complicated.
Okay.
Some studies have found that minority kids who are exposed to IPV might show fewer externalizing behaviors
Okay.
compared to white kids.
Hmm.
But other studies have found the opposite.
Really?
Yeah, and some studies haven't found any significant differences at all.
So the research on that is still pretty mixed.
Yeah, it seems like it's a really complex area that needs more research to understand how cultural and societal factors might be influencing these patterns.
Right. It's not just about race or ethnicity in isolation. There are probably a lot of other things at play.
Exactly. Okay, and then another really important moderator that they talk about is parenting practices.
Okay, so like how parents interact with their kids.
Exactly. And this one makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
Okay, how so?
Well, the research shows that positive parenting, things like a mother setting clear limits or providing emotional support, that can actually help to buffer kids from the negative effects of witnessing IPV.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, it's like even in a really tough situation, a supportive parent can make a huge difference in a child's life.
Right, so it's not inevitable that witnessing IPV will have these negative consequences.
Exactly. There are things that can help to protect kids.
Okay.
On the flip side, though, negative parenting practices, things like neglecting a child's needs, not monitoring them, knowing where they are and what they're up to,
Hmm.
those things can actually make the effects of witnessing IPV even worse.
Okay, so it's like good parenting can kind of protect kids, but bad parenting can make things worse.
Precisely. And they also talk about overprotective parenting,
Oh, interesting.
like not letting the child have any independence.
Right.
And that can also be a problem.
Okay.
And then, of course, hostility from parents, that can make things worse as well.
Makes sense. So it really is about the quality of the parent-child relationship.
Absolutely. And then the last moderator they discuss is peer relationships.
Oh, interesting. So like a child's friends.
Exactly. And this one's really about social support,
Okay.
Having good friends, feeling like you belong, that can help to protect kids from the negative effects of witnessing IPV.
So even if things are tough at home, having good friends can kind of make a difference.
Yeah, it's like having that support system outside of the family can really help to buffer some of those negative effects.
That's really encouraging, actually.
It is. It shows the importance of friendships, especially for kids who are going through a lot.
Definitely. So to summarize, we've got these three main mediators: psychological problem behaviors, lower school success, and problematic peer interactions. And then we've got these moderators like age, gender, race, ethnicity, parenting practices, and peer relationships.
You got it.
And all of these things kind of interact to shape how witnessing IPV might lead to bullying or being bullied.
It's a very complex picture.
It is. But this model, it really seems like a useful way to kind of make sense of all of this.
Oh, absolutely. And the authors talk about how their model is important because it connects all these different areas of research that often get studied separately.
Right, so it's like bringing together different pieces of the puzzle.
Exactly. But they also acknowledge that there are some limitations to the research that's been done so far.
Oh, okay. Like what?
Well, a lot of the studies that they looked at were cross-sectional, meaning they only looked at the data at one point in time.
Okay.
And that makes it harder to really say for sure that one thing is causing another.
Right, correlation doesn't equal causation.
Exactly. And they also point out that different studies have used different definitions of IPV and bullying,
Okay.
which makes it hard to compare the results across different studies.
Right, like if they're not all measuring the same thing, it's hard to draw any firm conclusions.
That's right. And another issue is that some of the studies on IPV, they used samples from people who were living in shelters.
Right.
And those people might not be representative of all families who are dealing with IPV.
Right, so the findings might not apply to everyone.
Exactly. And finally, they mentioned that some studies use data from parents to measure IPV and bullying, while others use data from the kids themselves.
Okay.
And that can also make a difference in the results.
Yeah, like a parent's perception of their child's experience might not be completely accurate.
Right. So there are some methodological issues that still need to be addressed.
Okay. But even with those limitations, it seems like there's still a lot that we can learn from this model.
Oh, absolutely. And the authors also talk about how it's really hard to separate out the effects of witnessing IPV from other forms of adversity,
Okay. Like what?
like child maltreatment,
Uh,
abuse or neglect,
right.
or community
Oh,
violence. Because all of these things tend to happen together.
right. So it's hard to say for sure what's causing what.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
a really complex web of factors that all kind of intertwine.
Hmm. But it seems like understanding these connections is really important.
It is. It's crucial if we want to develop effective interventions and provide support for young people who are dealing with these issues.
So just to recap, the main takeaway here is that there's a really strong link between witnessing violence at home and being involved in bullying.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just a simple cause and effect. There are all these other things going on that can influence that relationship.
Right. Psychological factors, school factors, social factors, and even things like age and gender.
Exactly. It's a really multifaceted issue.
It is. And this review really emphasizes the far-reaching consequences of IPV.
Yeah. It doesn't just affect the people who are directly involved in the violence.
Right. It can have a ripple effect that extends to the kids in the family.
Absolutely. And I think this whole discussion really makes you wonder about the role that the community can play in all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how can we create environments that are supportive of families and kids who are dealing with IPV?
Yeah, that's a really crucial question.
Because it seems like it's not just about addressing the violence itself. It's also about providing those supports that can help kids to cope and to build healthy relationships.
Absolutely. And that's something that we all need to be thinking about.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but it's one that we can't ignore.
Definitely not. The well-being of our kids depends on it.
I think that's a good place to leave it for today. Thanks for diving into this with me.
My pleasure. Always happy to talk about these important issues.
It's been really insightful. And for you listening, I hope this has given you some food for thought. It's a lot to digest, but the more we understand about these connections, the better equipped we'll be to create a safer and more supportive world for everyone.